welcome to all our online participants. My name is Vanessa. I play a marketing role for the Institute of Packaging, and I'm going to be your host this afternoon. Just a few notes, and I pop these into the chat box of housekeeping as we start up. We have a big audience this afternoon, so please, if I could ask you to keep your microphones on mute so that there's no interference and noise coming through. If you've got any questions, please pop these into the chat box area. We'll be going through them during the presentation, and time permitting, we'll address as many of those at the end that we can. The session is being recorded, and we will make it available on request after the session. So just that you all know that. Then just to say, we noticed that of the registrations, just over a third of the participants that registered were not IPSA members. So I just wanted to take a few minutes at the start of this afternoon session to tell those that may not know what the Institute is all about. So the Institute of Packaging is a professional association for individuals in the industry, and really those individuals that are committed to the art and science of packaging across South Africa. The slide that you can see up in front of you gives you our website address, ipsa.org.za. I'm going to chat through some of our offerings, but there's much more to find on this website. You'll also be able to find all the details about membership and application form. So please do visit our website for more. But really, our aims as the Institute are to promote high standards of professionalism across the industry. We do this through education and networking amongst individuals across the industry again, and also promoting the recognition of packaging as a profession in South Africa. We have a strong regional presence in each of the major regions, with passionate and dedicated committees in each of those regions who organize various events and initiatives, speaker events, social networking events, factory visits, just to name a few. From a broader overall perspective, the Institute offers our key portfolio is education, and we offer courses on 4 different levels of qualification. There's lots more about that on our website. We then offer regular knowledge share events, such as this one this afternoon. A lot of these are in a webinar format to be able to get to people in an easy way. But also some knowledge share events in person. We offer master classes. This is a bit more in detailed and in-person session where we critically unpack topical issues relevant to the industry. For example, in 2023, we ran these on the subjects of EPR and food labeling legislation, to name a few. We then also offer on a national and regional basis seminars and conferences alongside packaging exhibitions or standing on their own. Last year in October, we ran a conference called Responsible Packaging alongside ProPack Cape. The Institute offers the Gold Pack Awards program, and this is really aimed at driving and showcasing excellence in packaging across the industry. We offer the Student Gold Pack Awards program, and this is all about bringing the exciting world of packaging to the next generation of tertiary level students across various study disciplines. IPSA is an active member of the World Packaging Organization and the African Packaging Organization, and this brings our members a global perspective and shared global learnings and experiences across the packaging industry globally. We'd like to strongly encourage those of you that aren't currently members to have a look at becoming a member and signing up. It really offers you access to being updated about all these initiatives and events. It offers you early access to the events and also preferential rates. So, compared to a small membership fee, there are lots of benefits that you'll find it pays back quite quickly. So please do visit our website and find out more about becoming a member of IPSA. Okay, moving on from talking about the Institute, it's my great pleasure and privilege this afternoon to introduce our speaker, Stuart Baylis. Stuart is the Group Operations Manager at Polyflex Pre-Media Group. He's well known and well respected across the industry, so probably doesn't require much introduction to many of you that have joined us today, but a little bit from my side. Stuart holds a BSc in geomatics as well as an MBA from the University of Wales. And this really gives him a unique blend of technical expertise and strategic insight, which he brings to his role of overseeing all the technical production and IT activities of Polyflex Pre-Media. But also this unique blend of his expertise and insight makes Stuart an ideal candidate to share his knowledge with us this afternoon on the transformative impact of artificial intelligence in packaging. So without taking any more of Stuart's time, valuable time in sharing with you, I hand over. Welcome, Stuart, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks very much, Vanessa. Those very kind words. Can you all hear me clearly, and can I proceed? Great, thank you. Yeah, I think first of all, AI is quite a topical subject at the moment, and over the next 3 hours, I'm hoping to take you through the past, present, and the future. And for those Gen Zs who freaked out when I said 3 hours, I have been given strict instructions that we will finish on time. We have a 4:20 cutoff time here with our Gen Zs. For some reason, 4:20 is a popular time to leave our offices. So I'll try and keep it short and engaging, and hopefully take you through just the process in terms of what AI is, where we've come from the past, where we're currently sitting, and where we can expect AI in the future. So a good way to start off AI is obviously to look at something like ChatGPT. And I thought, well, ChatGPT, please tell me a joke about a man. And it said, of course, here's a light-hearted joke. Why did a man put money in a blender? Because he wanted to make liquid acids. Now, for those of you who laughed, I really appreciate it, but it's a pretty lame joke. But what I didn't want to come across as sexist, so I asked the same question about a female. I said, please tell me a joke about a woman. And this was the response I got from ChatGPT. It said, I am sorry, I cannot comply with that request. So I often get asked, what is ChatGPT? Is it binary, non-binary? Is it a she, a they, a them? For all the males on this presentation, I'd like to tell you right now, it's female, it's a she, and you've been warned. When it comes to any sort of generative AI, there's a model called the 3 H's called helpful, honest, and harmless. When it's helpful, it's got to obviously follow instructions. It has to perform certain tasks according to your intent and also give clarity in terms of your instruction. It needs to be accurate in terms of its response, and that's something which people are struggling, certainly with these language models, because when we start to hand out inaccurate information or any information that becomes what we call toxic, biased, or offensive, then we're going down a very dangerous road. There's something called the GPT hallucination, where you can ask ChatGPT a certain question and it might give you 1,000 different answers.
We're entering an era in which our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time, even if they would never say those things. So, for instance, they could have me say things like, I don't know, Killmonger was right, or Ben Carson is in the sunken place, or, how about this, simply, President Trump is a total and complete dipshit. Now, you see, I would never say these things, at least not in a public address, but someone else would. Someone like Jordan Peele. This is a dangerous time. Moving forward, we need to be more vigilant with what we trust from the internet. That's a time when we need to rely on trusted news sources. It may sound basic, but how we move forward in the age of information is going to be the difference between whether we survive or whether we become some kind of...
Right, I'm going to leave it right there. So let's go back into the past. There have been 4 major paths of inflection. The first one being fire. When fire was invented or created, suddenly humans being able to cook food, they began to provide warmth, they began to fend off predators, their diet changed, their social structures changed, and they began to interact with their environment. The second major inflection was the development of agriculture. And that created more of a nomadic lifestyle, where farming communities were created. It became a food surplus. Populations began to grow and civilizations began to develop. The third major inflection point is actually electricity. And that was really the start of the second industrial revolution, where transportation and communication really excelled. And sort of brought us into the 19th century. And here we sit in the mid-20th century with the advent of AI, and it's literally the start of this AI process. If we look at innovation cycles over the years, especially when it comes to generative AI, there is a lot of Hollywood hype about the fact that machines are going to take over, and it's simply not true. I think us humans are entering a golden age of creativity and production. Is there going to be a shift in the job market? Absolutely, there's going to be a shift. Certain jobs will disappear, but jobs will be created. It's interesting, before alarm clocks, there were people called knocker-uppers, and knocker-uppers would run through the streets of London knocking on doors to wake people up. And when the alarm clock was invented, guess what? They lost their jobs. And not too recently, we've had switchboard operators who used to dominate the communication space being taken over by automated telephone systems. And as irritating as automated telephone systems are, they've certainly revolutionized the way we've communicated. And so you can see the different waves we've been through. Each wave, from the first wave to the sixth wave, becomes shorter and shorter. The uptake to the market becomes quicker and faster, and the speed to meet market demands becomes more aggressive as we go from generation to generation. And it's really due to the speed of the ability to access information over the years. So something for you to actually write down, and remember, I'm going to test you at the end of it, is a definition of artificial intelligence. And it's quite a mouthful, but it's the shortest one that I could actually find. But it's basically, it's the development of computer systems that can perform tasks requiring human intelligence, involves algorithms, models, enables machines to learn, reason, perceive, make decisions. It analyzes data, identifies patterns, and generates insight or predictions. So how long has AI been around with us? Well, we actually can go back 20 years, because in 2006, Google Translate came into our lives. And Google Translate is a form of a language model. And it was certainly used extensively during the Rugby World Cup and Driekus van Heerden's UFC championship, when they spoke about hulle weet nie wat ons weet nie, and that translation means they don't know what we know. And the actual interpretation of that is, it describes how a team is playing for a greater cause. And we know, living in South Africa, we have to live for a greater cause to be able to survive and enjoy life as well. Almost 13 years ago, Siri came onto the market as well. Siri has been annoying us ever since. But again, that was a language model using to predict our text or interpret the way we speak, and then give a realistic answer. And obviously, Google itself tries to guess the next sentence or what you're trying to search for. And again, that language model exists within the Google search engine. So we can't sit back and say we haven't been exposed to AI. It's been part of our lives for the past 20 years. I guess we just haven't given it a real name or given it some hype to it as well. So let's just go through a bit of definitions in terms of what is artificial intelligence. And it's been around since the advent of computers. And so the word of artificial intelligence means it can sense, reason, and act. A subset of that is something called machine learning. And those of us in production we do a lot of machine learning. All our machines are gathering data, and we're able to analyze that data over time. But what we're entering now is a subset of machine learning called deep learning. And deep learning is a multi-neural network where it can learn from vast amounts of data. So I'm going to focus on what we know as AI, or what we call deep learning. And this is how it's actually broken up. So deep learning on my left-hand side, you can see LLM, which is a large language model, is broken up into familiar AI tools that I think most of us have been exposed to, like ChatGPT and Bard. Below that, you see neural rendering. That's really cool. Or something like NERF is quite new in the market, but basically means you can go and take your camera, take a couple of pictures around the room, and it'll generate a three-dimensional image, and that's really clever. Text to image is also quite popular, and we've seen DALL-E, which comes out of OpenAI, or it's part of ChatGPT, where it can generate images from text. Then you've got Firefly, which comes from Adobe, and then Stable Diffusion, which is Midjourney, which is another piece of software. And I'm going to expose you to some of those images which we've generated using that. And certainly in the design space and the pre-media space that I'm in, that it becomes really exciting going forward. And then object detection, which we use a lot in our web center, like online approval space. But believe it or not, even your cell phone is object detection. If you take a picture of something and you start to search for a particular word, it'll actually find that word within an image. So these AIs are already built into our common everyday tools that we actually use. If you look down the bottom there, you can see the big players in the market. Just out of interest, Amazon has over 1.5 million employees, Google 160,000 employees, and yet OpenAI, which operates ChatGPT, only has 500 employees. So it really is just a startup. Obviously, it's going to expand as it becomes more commercialized. But the amount of money that gets pumped from these businesses, and they're big players in the markets. And that's why it's not worth our while and time to try and develop our own AI. We may as well stick with one of these big players in the market. And I always say, if you invested in shares in NVIDIA, which does all your video streaming software, hardware, I should say, you would have had about 155% return on your investment. And had you done that, I guess you wouldn't have been on this webinar today. You'd be in the Caribbean on your yacht. When it comes to the uptake of technology, the speed of change is phenomenal, and it's due to two reasons, and it applies to any business. First of all, your product has to solve a pain. Customers know what they want, they just don't know how to get there. So Google Translate solves a pain. It solves a pain of being able to interpret language. Uber, it solved the pain of us trying to get easy access to transport. Spotify gave us easy access to music. And so it goes on. ChatGPT, again, gives us access to language. It gives us access to information. And the key ingredient to all of these things is easily accessible. And so most of these run off an app. And in the case of a lot of them, it's a free access in the beginning, and then you start to pay your subscriptions once they've roped you in. And you can see, yeah, ChatGPT took less than 2 months to reach 100 million users. Google Translate over 78 months, and so it continues. So the uptake of and the speed to market of users accessing information is just truly phenomenal. But it's based on those two key factors of solving a pain, and secondly, having easy access. When it comes to these models, they say bigger is better, and for some of us males, that might hurt as a comment, but since 2018, these models have become humongous in size. And I just want to take you through just some examples. I have to look at my notes because my face is cutting off the edge, but if I start to look at just the human brain, you can see there ChatGPT-1 had about 100 million parameters. So it almost had the size of an ant brain. And then slowly from 2018 to 2020, we get to ChatGPT-3, and that's about 100 billion parameters. So now we're on par with the rat brain. Currently, ChatGPT-4 is sitting at about 1 trillion parameters. The good news is the human brain is about 100 trillion parameters. So there's a big gap between ChatGPT-4 and the human brain, and you can't relate the two, but it's just to try and put it in perspective in terms of, will an AI ever reach the capacity of a human brain? The current studies say no, although they're not directly related. Just the brain model is just, it's massive, being 100 trillion parameters. And that just revolves around parameters. When it comes to words, it changes quite a bit. You notice there was quite an exponential growth on the parameters. When it comes to words, you can see it's a lot flatter. If you look at humans reading words in their lifetime, it's about 1 billion words. Wikipedia is about 10 billion words. And then obviously ChatGPT-1, what did they do? Well, they just took Wikipedia, added some more data to it, and generated the first language model. And then from that, because it's a language model, it can create its own language. And currently we're sitting on about 1 trillion parameters. The entire human written text is about 10 trillion. So it's going to get to the stage where these language models will meet or plateau in terms of all human written text. And of course, that only applies unless we get invaded by some aliens and then we have to learn a new language. But it's quite a scary prospect. And the main concern is the 1 billion words by humans read in their lifetime. And that number is not increasing, it's actually decreasing. And it's decreasing because of this, your cell phone. We're no longer reading words, we're watching our reels, we're watching our TikTok, and we're watching video content more than we are actually reading words. So that's something to bear in mind. When it comes to the cost of these language models, you can see ChatGPT-1 cost $1,000 US. In fact, it was invented by one person. So it was quite a cost-effective solution. But the growth has been actually exponential. At the moment, ChatGPT-4, which is OpenAI's, cost over $100,000 US. So it's a big game. You need big support. And the danger in this market space is that if you make a mistake in your model, or if you interpret something incorrectly, you're in for $50 million US overnight, besides your share just plummeting. So it's a high stakes game that these guys are playing in. They're playing it very aggressively, and they're all trying to compete with each other. But it's huge money that's playing in this particular space. You spoke about circular economies and some conferences on sustainability, and AI certainly doesn't get away with that. There's something which we in packaging refer to as greenwashing, and especially brands are using a lot of greenwashing when it comes to making false claims about their sustainability. And yet CO2 emissions is mostly going forward going to become the standard in terms of, is it scientifically proven whether your product is sustainable or not? ChatGPT uses 100 times more energy than a Google search. So massive computing power and generating 539 metric tons of CO2. These large models are chewing up a huge amount of energy. And I guess over time, they will become more efficient. But I always say, we worry about throwing plastic in the ocean. But to be honest, these models are actually generating more CO2 and more harmful to the environment than our concerns for plastic. Just to take you through some quick definitions, what's a large language model? And basically, it's just a fancy autocomplete. It has billions of parameters, like I showed you, and it's a huge data set that's been trained. And basically, at the moment, you've got to give it a piece of text or content. You can't speak to it. You've got to type it in, and it will start to predict the next word. Once it's predicted the next word and giving a response, that's when it goes through what they call reinforced learning, and human feedback. And that's when the ideation process takes in. That's when it becomes a bit exciting, when it feeds back something to you and your creative mind then steps in and then you start to respond to it. And what's becoming more and more evident is the fact is the way we communicate to it becomes more important to get the right response at the end of the day. So how does it work? Well, basically, very simply, we know the color of the sky is blue. It'll then go through various parameters. It'll say the color of the sky is orange, red, green, brown. And someone in the background actually says, no, when it chooses blue, it says, yes, you're right. So now the model's learned from the instruction that the color of the sky is blue. And that's how the model learns from itself. So it's actually a human sitting on the inside saying, blue is the right answer, not yellow, not red. And so from a given sequence of words, it begins to predict the next word. Where it becomes exciting is that you can take, although we've got these generic models, what you can do is now add your own data to it. And ChatGPT, the paid version of it, not the free version, the paid version of it, you can generate your own model. So it's got a generic data. And then you can start to load your own documentation. So whether it's ISO documentation, your papers, your notes, your data from your machines and that type of stuff. And then from that, you can start to interrogate and analyze that information. And again, it'll start to predict the outcome. And that becomes really, really exciting. So what is generative AI? Well, first of all, generative means to create new content. And this is where we see the AI space really coming out in the fore. So audio, code, images, text, and video. And those are the key areas we see AI really dominating. And what is artificial intelligence? Well, means using a computer. So it's generating with a computer automatic audio, code, images, text, and video. And we're going to delve a bit into that as we go forward. And as I said to you, there's Midjourney is a generative AI, which again, based on language prompts, is able to then interpret and begin to describe images and create images. And it uses a piece of software called Discord. It's a social media platform just to make it a bit more user-friendly. But it's actually not that clever. We've had a bit of fun with this, part of our fine creative team, Liam and his mates. And we said to him, well, please generate a aubergine. We wanted an aubergine. And aubergine, for those you know, is actually an eggplant. And so we said, please generate an eggplant in Midjourney. And this is what it gave us. It gave us exactly what we asked for. So it gave us a plant with eggs in it. And we asked for another option, and it was an Easter egg in a tree. And then it was actually fried egg on the actual plant. And what it starts to tell us is that often in business, we instruct employees, we give them a task, and we wonder why they come back with something totally opposite to what we instructed them. And yet, if a language model is coming back with something completely erroneous or something which it interprets literally what we asked for it. And I think the same applies in business principles, and that's what we grappling with it in Polyflex Pre-Media is how are we able to communicate in a language that's common, that everyone understands, that they don't interpret your instruction in the incorrect way. And I think that if we can get that right, we're going to go a long way to solving, getting what we call loops in the system, getting jobs in and out of production as quickly as possible. We can have even more fun. And how to confuse an AI is that you put a muffin with your Muffy dog. Now, again, it's based on huge data. It interprets a muffin and a dog at the same time. So when you ask it to bake a cake, you end up with a dog inside of your cake. And this is where we're sitting in this quandrum at the moment. But again, as AI develops, it's going to become more and more intelligent as we move along. As I said, part of our group is the Fine Creative Agency, and they've spent a lot of time generating. These are all images generated on various generative AI platforms. The one on the left, there's the crowd of South Africans. We like to, in fact, when we did it, that was the sign. We wanted to see what it looked like when load shedding ended. And that was a smile on the people's faces and showing demographics the demographics of our country. And obviously now pre-elections, I think we're on 50 days with no load shedding, but it just shows you what it's able to generate. And below that is, I think it's Butch, it's that's the dog, which we then went through like 12 iterations to be able to generate that image with a particular lighting as well. That's Andre's dog, who heads up our creative director of Font. And then we've got stylized images. We've got more dramatic scenes of a chameleon in an urban jungle. We've got food. We've got human eyes. We've got packaging and shapes and figures. And these are all generated using generative AI images in terms of it being able to interpolate data. So it does become quite exciting. Is it replacing the creative space? Absolutely not. It's starting that ideation process, and then we start to develop. Some of the fun we've had with it is obviously saying, well, please create a dramatic scene in a dark jungle with a colorful chameleon. Checking a Pantone swatch book, and I was meant to bring a Pantone swatch book in here with me, but the swatch book is a fan book that shows all the possible colors that we can print on a printing press. And you can see it gets it horribly wrong. It has a little piece of paper with some colors on it. And if you notice on the book there as well, the book is cut in half at the bottom as well. So it really struggles to interpret what we want. When it came to a printing press, and for those of you who know your history of the printing press, Gutenberg developed the printing press, and I think you'd be horrified to know that this is what a printing press looks like. And this is meant to be a wide web flexible press printing ECG, which is the latest expanded color gamut printing process. It really comes up with a mess. Although the ink spill on the floor often remind a lot of our converters, our printers out there, that some of their presses do look like this at the end of the week. But still, it still struggles to interpret what a flexographic printing press is at the end of the day. So let's see what's happening in the Photoshop generative AI space.
Generative fill not only adds objects to a scene, it can also remove them. Take this image for example. We have no idea what she looks like with her hand covering her face, but let's see what Photoshop's AI can do with it. Make a quick lasso selection, followed by the generative fill button with no prompt. Oh wow, how amazing is that? Just for comparison, this is the best the content-aware fill could do. If this is the beta, just imagine what AI is going to be capable of in a few years' time. Where Photoshop's AI generative fill feature really shines is when it's used in combination with other AI art tools like Midjourney. Where these other image generation tools fall is the inability to make specific changes. You get what you're given, and if you want to change something, you pretty much have to regenerate the whole thing. But with Photoshop, you can now easily fix and enhance your Midjourney images. Check out this female Iron Man concept by Ripping Bag. It's incredibly detailed, but frustratingly the image is cropped a little too tightly. Not to worry though, with Photoshop we can simply extend the canvas with the crop tool and let the new generative fill tool fill in the gap. Amazingly, it even generates a whole new arm in the exact same style.
Yeah, so I mean, that's quite incredible. I mean, I know this is a bit more dramatic, but in the packaging space, we often end up with a bowl of rice or a fruit bowl if it's a juice or something. And when it goes through a design development or design change, you want to extend that. In the past, we obviously had to then source different images and then group them together. Now with this, you can just extend the canvas and it'll generate that image. So that becomes really powerful. Yeah, I think it's important that we just pop into the movies and just see what's happening with Harrison Ford. In his latest movie in Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny, I think it's the 5th in the series, Harrison Ford is now 81, and it's using deepfake technology to make him look much younger. And just so you know that, yeah, Vanessa and I don't have deepfake technology on us at the moment.
This is more than just a Snapchat filter. It's called deepfake technology, and it's how Harrison Ford was made to look 40 years younger in the new film Indiana Jones 5, and how the film's budget hit almost $300 million. Let's take a look at how this process works and why they decided to do this for Indy 5, starting with the fact that Harrison Ford is now 80 years old, which some people argue is too old to continue playing a leading role in an action-adventure movie. But first, you might be wondering, what is deepfake technology? And the basic answer is that it's a way of using artificial intelligence to manipulate images and videos of people, making them look or sound like someone else. The term deep fake comes from combining deep learning and fake, as deep learning is a type of machine learning that uses neural networks to learn from data and generate realistic outputs. Deepfake technology can be used for various purposes such as entertainment, education, journalism, or even malicious intent. For example, you may have seen some viral videos of Tom Cruise on TikTok where he appears to be doing some funny and unexpected things, like biting into a lollipop with gum inside.
That's incredible.
But these videos are not really Tom Cruise. They're deep fakes created by visual and AI effects artist Chris Ume with the help of actor Miles Fisher, who looks a lot like Tom Cruise. Ume used a software called Metaphysic AI, which automates hyper-real generative AI content creation. The result is a series of stunningly realistic videos of Tom Cruise that fooled millions of viewers on TikTok. Ume and Fisher didn't monetize their account on TikTok, but they did launch a company called Metaphysic in June 2021, which aims to use deepfake technology for ethical and creative.
Yeah, I think some of you might recognize that Miles Fisher. He's part of the Checkers 60/60 advert, and you'll see him on the screens as you go to the till point. When we start to look at what we call the old approach, I guess it's how we operate today. We have very limited creative direction, and then we have a lot of manual processing, not necessarily manual writing. I'm not talking about necessary copyright, but the way we'd operate today would get a flip chart out, we'll stand in front of our staff, and then we'll start to be creative or ideation or sales focused, whatever it is. And so there's a huge amount of effort taken in this ability to then start to generate creative ideas. There's something called the 4Ds, and you need to all write this down, but they say if it's dirty, dull, dangerous, or difficult, then you need to automate it. So if it's dirty, dull, dangerous, or difficult, you need to automate it. So that's why I say to my wife, I can't wash the dishes because it's dirty, dull, dangerous, and it's difficult. I really struggle with it. But what's more important, if we can automate certain of these processes, and believe it or not, there are a lot of parts of our job which are repetitive. They are roads. And we need to understand that we need to start focus more on human-centric skills. Skills like creativity, skills like problem solving, skills like leadership, skills like empathy, and take those rote functions that are repetitive and we automate those processes. And that's what we do a lot within Polyflex Premier Group, is see what can we do to automate to create more space. And what it does, it takes the stress away, it removes the stress from our lives at the end of the day. The future going forward, we can see with AI really allowing us a lot more space in that creative direction. And then allowing the AI, like the ChatGPT, to come up with those ideas. So if you're looking to sort of come up with a new concept, type it in the ChatGPT, it'll give you some feedback. And as I said, that stage, it starts the creative process. We creative beings, we have a prefrontal cortex, and it starts the process going of us becoming creative. And we allow the ChatGPT to get that process in motion. And it gives us a lot more space in that creative direction. For some of you who haven't even played with it, it's great for itineraries, for work schedules, for summaries, for briefs. You can copy emails into it. You can make them more formal, less formal. It's really good even in terms of labor law. I've even issued a few warnings with it. I can't say it'll summarize and give you the answers to your exam questions, but it'll certainly help summarize notes and that type of stuff and make information more readily accessible to you guys. And so the approaches, the limits become endless when it comes to this particular approach. Believe it or not, we'll even write a poem to your husband or wife. So if you haven't tried that, it's worthwhile having a go at it. So where do we going forward in terms of AI? Where do we see it happening. In terms of waste management, AMP Robotics is using AI for sorting its packaging. It's streamlining the disposal and recycling process and starting to revolutionize the recycling and the sorting process. And that becomes very important in the packaging space. So again, it's using AI to be able to detect what images are metals, which are paper, which are rigids, which are board, and then it uses robots to pick. Obviously, in South Africa, we have a huge population, and we have pickers on our rubbish dumps, and they go through and they pick out all the rubbish which they then can sell on and recycle. But this is obviously, coming from Europe, it's an automated process, but it's quite an exciting approach where, again, using AI, it can detect particular images. Something which has been around for a while is personalized packaging. Again, using AI and Coke Share a Coke campaign, where it creates personalized data and really to enhance customer engagement. In the bottom left of my screen, you can see their new V3000, where again they used human and artificial intelligence to try and use emotions, aspirations, colors, and flavors around the world to create a new flavor of Coke. So they're certainly jumping on the bandwagon just to see whether AI can be used to generate some sort of flavor and understand the way the human brain works. Again, whether it's a marketing gimmick or not, I think good of them for trying to enter this particular space. Amazon, I mean, you saw the size of the company, but a huge organization like Amazon using AI for optimizing packaging and delivery, trying to reduce supply chain costs. We know the headaches we have on our ports of Durban. We know that the challenges we have with global wars, and that's influencing projections through the Suez Canal. We've got weather patterns as well. So AI is obviously just not able to take data, but able to interpolate and predict the future of supply chain optimization. And we all know the negative impact it has when we got stock sitting off the Durban Harbour, for example, and we cannot supply our customers. In terms of quality control, Tetra Pak has a really good paper on Industry 4.0. It's on their website. You can download it. And they obviously use it a lot in terms of ensuring they can produce high quality packaging and minimize costs. And that's a key area of their value statement as well. And they're leaders in that regard as well. But as I say, there's a nice paper you guys can download and read at night if you so wish to. On the printing side, we enter into Drupa. It's a big trade show, mainly focused on flexographic printing. It's in June this year. So I think we're going to get a lot of sight into where flexography is going in terms of wide web printing presses and narrow web printing presses. But certainly on the litho side, Heidelberg have brought out AIs where they're using it to preset wash assist, powder assist, color assist. And again, it's all those routine little functions that really humans don't really need to do. They need to be able to optimize those machines, the assets. You need to sweat the asset. It needs to operate at its full capacity. So we try and eliminate those routines that just generate stress and where we can make space. Interesting enough, I'm sure a lot of you are looking at it and saying, well, that actually is not a lithographic printing press. And to be honest, all these images I've got here, and I'm sure some of you will recognize some of the spelling mistakes were generated on OpenAI's DALL-E. So again, it struggled a bit, but I thought it was a bit of fun trying to generate some of the images. Consumer engagement, again, PepsiCo, nothing new to us, using QR codes, augmented reality, AR, to try and extend the consumer engagement, extend the life of the product in front of you. So the consumer remains more engaged with the actual brand after consuming it as well. And again, that's a form of AR to be able to extend the consumer engagement. And then IBM using AI in terms of regulatory compliance, especially amongst all the worlds. I mean, you're trying to now manage legal environmental standards across, I don't know how many 100 countries. I mean, again, an AI, it's a mass language model, can interpret the different languages and that type of stuff. And something I was just thinking about before we came on is that, believe it or not, Wimbledon tennis uses IBM's Watson X. It's a massive AI tool where it's able to monitor all the tennis matches, because obviously they can't have commentators on all 18 courts. So the AI monitors the tennis matches, it pulls out the main highlights and is able to feed back almost instantaneously. So even in sports, we'll begin to question whether, if we're listening to John McEnroe at Wimbledon tennis, if it really is John McEnroe, because he cannot be on all 18 courts at the same time. So exciting time. So I thought I'd really just give you a bit of a perspective of where we see AI starting to appear in the business space. My daughter is currently studying at Red and Yellow. It's a creative business school of business based in Cape Town, and it's obviously focuses in the digital space, in digital marketing, advertising, and media. And when you walk into their campus, there's this big poster which really had an impact on me, because it said artificial intelligence and robots are going to replace most of the jobs we know today. And it's quite something that hits you. I think, well, am I sending her to the right business school? But they go on to say, we believe in creative thinking is the most important skill for the future, and it must be supported by uniquely human abilities such as leadership, adaptability, and social intelligence. And it goes on about creative magic and that type of stuff. And for a higher learning institute, I think they're in the right space, especially with its advent of artificial intelligence, and ready to take creativity to the next level. So it really is an exciting space to be in. To end off, just to be maybe a bit more philosophical, and I just want to read an extract from the CEO of a company called Kubrick. They are a generative AI organization. But she says, if the Industrial Revolution created jobs that were robotic for humans, the generative AI revolution will be our liberation and freedom from them. Each person will turn into their own creative studio. The barriers between your vision and its manifestation will disappear. Complex forms, music, and writing, and all forms of creative tools will be simplified and given to your fingertips. Humanity will transcend from a society of consumers into creators. This is important. The ones that excel in the future of the job markets will be those that strengthen their unique personal and emotional skill that no computer can mimic. And so my advice to you is start investing in expanding into your consciousness. Start to understand what makes you unique. Sharpen your interpersonal, emotional, and creative skills. And as Socrates is accredited for, it says, know yourself. Focus on wisdom, ethical living, and self-knowledge. And you can join along if you want on the next slide.
I could be brown, I could be blue, I could be violet sky, I could be hurtful, I could be purple, I could be anything you like. I could be brown, I could be blue, I could be violet sky, I could be hurtful, I could be purple, I could be anything you like. I could be brown, I could be blue, I could be violet sky, I could be hurtful, I could be purple, I could be anything you like. I could be brown, I could be blue, I could be violet sky, I could be hurtful, I could be purple, I could be anything you like. I could be brown, I could be blue, I could be violet sky, I could be hurtful, I could be purple, I could be anything you like. I could be brown, I could be blue, I could be violet sky, I could be hurtful, I could be purple, I could be anything you like.
And so I have no idea why I put that in. I'm sure my daughter's cringing at the moment, but I think I just want to end off to say, well, yeah, you can be brown, you can be blue, you can be violet sky. Don't be hurtful, but you can be anything you like. And the main question is, will AI be your master or be your servant? Please choose wisely. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, Stuart. About to burst into song. I could be brown, I could be blue, I could be violet sky. That was great. And certainly just really thought-provoking. I'm sure most of you online will agree with me. Just opened up, certainly for me, that opened up so many different thoughts, opportunities, things to think about. I haven't seen questions going into the chat box. I don't know if anybody has a question. If you want to raise your hand and I can try and find you and address it. We've got a couple of minutes. It's 24 minutes past 4, so a few minutes if we need any questions to be answered. Yeah, I see lots of wonderful comments coming and just saying, yeah, thank you so much. I see one question's come up, Warren McPhail. Now I've lost it, sorry. So I think Warren was just asking how AI will impact graphic design. I think was that, Warren, what your message was saying? Yes. Stuart, do you want to address that?
Yeah, I think as a graphic designer, I think you must embrace it. It's not going away. Don't sit back. And as I say, it does not diminish your creativity as a creative being. For sure, you can give it a task. It'll generate an image of a dog and a cat and that type of stuff. But for me, that just starts that ideation process. It starts the creative process. And then you're still going to need the human touch. I think people just think it's going to become a sausage machine. And I really struggle to believe, especially when it comes to branding and packaging, we still need to understand our customers. We need to understand our customers' pain and what's going to appeal to it. So, as I say, my daughter's in that space, and I think it's a really exciting time to be in that space. But don't engage with it. Don't poo-poo it. I think if you can use it as a tool to accelerate your ability to deliver to the customer, yeah, you might have to reinvent yourself a little bit, but I think it's an exciting space to be in.
Great, thank you for answering that. Any other questions or hands raised? I think, okay, yeah. So thank you so much, Stuart, for sharing your insight, your valued insight, and just taking us through the journey of AI, the past, the present, thinking about the future. As we said, just opening and seeing a lot of comments coming through are all about that being thought-provoking and just opening our thoughts into this. When I was thinking about today's session, I was just thinking how AI really reminds me so much of packaging. If we go to packaging 101 that we normally lecture or teach, and at the beginning of the packaging textbook, handbook, is packaging enables modern living. That's sort of a fundamental function of packaging. And that's the same as the AI spaces. It's really what enables modern living. So I think we can draw quite a lot of similarities in terms of, insight into consumers, insight into users, usability right throughout the supply chain, understanding how things need to work, how things need to happen. And, that just made me quite excited that actually as a packaging industry and as packaging professionals, we understand this thing. We shouldn't be afraid of AI because we're in the business of enabling modern living and modernizing the way things are done. So I think it opens really great opportunities for us. An insight I'd never thought about before, which you raised, Stuart, was that the AI industry faces big challenges like the packaging industry does with sustainability and with energy that's consumed. So similar areas that we have to innovate in. But yeah, thank you so much, Stuart, for that.
Amount of lawsuits that are going to come their way. Yeah, just an interesting little example is those involved in like new product development. Often we have someone come to a brand and says, I'm a farmer and I want to sell water, for example, it's spring water. And then now the brand has to come up with what are the features that make your spring water better than any other water. And again, you can go onto ChatGPT and then put in all the features. It'll give you some of the key areas that make spring water better than any other water. And it starts that process where in the past, I think a lot of these new product of NPD teams really struggle to come up with new ideas because you're all competing against each other in the same market. Yeah,
absolutely. No, thank you. That's great. And I think you've given us a great sort of impact analysis throughout the supply chain of where, you know, where we'll see where AI can actually make a difference and make an impact. So thank you. Thank you all for your time this afternoon and being with us. And we look forward to more knowledge sharing going forwards. But thank you so much, Stuart, for your input.
Pleasure.
Great.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone.
So,
Bye.
bye-bye.